The morning of November 4th, 2010, dawned bright and clear over Singapore's Changi Airport, a sprawling hub of modern aviation and one of the busiest airports in the world. The sun cast a golden glow over the tarmac, where the colossal silhouette of Qantas Flight 32, an Airbus A380, stood poised for departure. The A380, the largest passenger aircraft ever built, was a marvel of engineering, a double-decked behemoth capable of carrying over 450 passengers and crew. Its four Rolls-Royce Trent 900 engines hummed with quiet power, each one a masterpiece of modern technology designed to propel the aircraft across vast distances with unparalleled efficiency. On this day, the aircraft was bound for Sydney, Australia, a routine flight that would soon become anything but ordinary. Inside the terminal, passengers moved with the usual rhythm of air travel, families herding children, business travelers scrolling through emails, and vacationers clutching guidebooks. The atmosphere was one of calm anticipation, the kind of mundane predictability that defines the majority of commercial flights. For the crew of Qantas Flight 32, this was another day at work, albeit one requiring the utmost precision and professionalism. The flight deck was manned by a highly experienced team, Captain Richard de Crespigny, a veteran pilot with over 15,000 flight hours, Senior First Officer Matt Hicks, First Officer Mark Johnson, and two additional check captains, Harry Wubben and David Evans, who were on board to observe and provide additional support. Together, they represented decades of aviation expertise, a reassuring presence for the 440 passengers who would soon entrust their lives to this machine and its crew. As boarding commenced, the A380's cavernous interior began to fill with the sounds of life, rolling suitcases, murmured conversations, and the occasional cry of a child. The cabin crew moved with practiced efficiency, stowing luggage, offering smiles, and ensuring that every passenger was settled. The aircraft's sheer size was a source of fascination for many, its twin aisles and spacious seating a testament to the advancements in aviation design. On the upper deck, first-class passengers reclined in luxurious pods, while economy class bustled with the energy of a diverse group of travelers. For all its grandeur, the A380 was, at its core, a machine built for routine, a vessel designed to shrink the world, one flight at a time. At 9:56 a.m. local time, the aircraft pushed back from the gate, its engines spooling up with a low, resonant whine. The flight crew ran through their pre-takeoff checks with meticulous attention to detail, their voices calm and measured as they confirmed the status of every system. Outside, the ground crew gave their final signals, and the A380 began its slow taxi to the runway. The morning sun glinted off its sleek fuselage, the iconic red and white Qantas kangaroo logo emblazoned on the tail. To the casual observer, it was a scene of perfect normalcy, the kind of moment that plays out countless times each day at airports around the world. At 10:01 a.m., the aircraft reached the threshold of runway 20C, its engines roaring to life as the pilots advanced the throttles. The A380 surged forward, its massive frame accelerating with surprising agility. Inside the cabin, passengers felt the familiar push of acceleration, the sensation of being pressed into their seats as the aircraft gathered speed. The nose lifted and the wheels left the ground, the city of Singapore falling away beneath them. The climb was smooth, the aircraft ascending through a sky dotted with fluffy cumulus clouds. For the passengers, the flight was now underway, a journey that would take them across the Java Sea, over the vast expanse of the Australian outback, and finally to the bustling metropolis of Sydney. But at 10:04 a.m., just 3 minutes after takeoff, the routine was shattered. Without warning, the number 2 engine, located on the left wing, suffered a catastrophic failure. A massive explosion rocked the aircraft, sending shockwaves through the fuselage and sending debris hurtling into the sky. Inside the cabin, Passengers were jolted by the violent shudder, their initial confusion quickly giving way to fear. On the flight deck, the crew was confronted with a cascade of alarms and warning messages, their screens flashing with a litany of system failures. The explosion had not only destroyed the engine, but had also sent shrapnel tearing through the wing, damaging critical systems and leaving the aircraft in a precarious state. The crew's training kicked in immediately. Captain de Crespigny took control, his voice steady as he directed his team to assess the damage and stabilize the aircraft. The A380 was now flying on 3 engines, but the challenges went far beyond the loss of power. The explosion had severed hydraulic lines, damaged fuel tanks, and compromised the aircraft's electrical systems. The flight control computers, which relied on data from multiple sensors, were now receiving conflicting information, making it difficult to determine the aircraft's true condition. The crew faced a daunting task: to diagnose the extent of the damage, manage the remaining systems, and find a way to return the crippled aircraft to the ground safely. As the A380 climbed to 7,400 feet, the crew began to methodically work through their emergency procedures. The first priority was to stabilize the aircraft and assess its ability to continue flying. The loss of the number 2 engine had created an asymmetrical thrust situation, requiring careful adjustments to maintain control. The damaged wing was leaking fuel, and the crew had to calculate whether they had enough to reach an alternate airport if necessary. The flight management system, which normally provided precise navigation data, was partially offline, forcing the crew to rely on manual inputs and their own expertise. Outside, the sky was a brilliant blue, a stark contrast to the tension inside the cockpit. The passengers, meanwhile, were largely unaware of the full extent of the crisis. The cabin crew, trained to maintain calm in the face of adversity, moved through the aisles with reassuring smiles, offering water and blankets to those who needed them. Some passengers peered out the windows, their eyes drawn to the damaged engine and the trail of smoke it left in its wake. Others focused on their seatbacks, their minds racing with unspoken fears. The A380, for all its size and strength, suddenly felt fragile, a tiny speck in the vastness of the sky. As the crew worked to regain control, the aircraft entered a holding pattern over the Java Sea, circling while they assessed their options. The situation was dire, but not hopeless. The A380's redundant systems, a hallmark of its design, provided a margin of safety that would prove crucial in the coming minutes. The crew knew that their every decision would have far-reaching consequences, not only for the 469 people on board, but for the future of aviation itself. This was no longer just a flight. It was a test of human ingenuity, teamwork, and the relentless pursuit of safety in the face of overwhelming odds. And so, high above the waters of the Java Sea, Qantas Flight 32 began its fight for survival. The crew, united by training and determination, prepared to confront the challenges ahead. The passengers, though unaware of the full scope of the crisis, placed their trust in the hands of those who had sworn to protect them. And the A380, a symbol of modern aviation's triumphs and vulnerabilities, pressed on through the sky, its fate hanging in the balance. As Qantas Flight 32 circled over the Java Sea, the flight deck was a hive of focused activity. The crew, though, acutely aware of the gravity of the situation, operated with a calm precision born of years of training and experience. Captain Richard de Crespigny, seated in the left-hand pilot seat, was the embodiment of composure, his hands steady on the controls as he processed the flood of information streaming in from the aircraft's systems. Beside him, Senior First Officer Matt Hicks and First Officer Mark Johnson worked tirelessly to manage the aircraft's complex systems, their eyes darting between screens and instruments as they sought to piece together the full picture of the damage. In the rear of the flight deck, Czech captains Harry Wubben and David Evans provided additional support, their presence a reassuring reminder of the depth of expertise on board. The explosion of the No. 2 engine had not only destroyed the engine itself, but had also caused extensive damage to the left wing. Shrapnel from the disintegrating turbine blades had punctured the wing's surface, severing hydraulic lines, damaging fuel tanks, and compromising the integrity of the aircraft's structure. The flight control computers, which relied on data from sensors located throughout the aircraft, were now receiving conflicting information, creating a confusing and potentially dangerous situation. The crew had to rely on their instincts and training to interpret the data and make decisions that would keep the aircraft airborne. One of the most immediate challenges was the loss of hydraulic fluid, which was essential for operating the aircraft's control surfaces, the ailerons, elevators, and rudder that allowed the pilots to maneuver the plane. The A380 was designed with multiple hydraulic systems for redundancy, but the explosion had damaged several of these, leaving the crew with limited control. Captain de Crespigny and his team had to carefully manage the remaining hydraulic pressure, using it sparingly to make adjustments to the aircraft's flight path. Every movement of the controls had to be deliberate and measured, as excessive use could deplete the remaining fluid and leave the aircraft uncontrollable. Fuel management was another critical concern. The damaged wing was leaking fuel at an alarming rate, and the crew had to calculate whether they had enough to reach an alternate airport if necessary. The flight management system, which normally provided precise data on fuel consumption and range, was partially offline, forcing the crew to rely on manual calculations and their own judgment. They quickly determined that returning to Singapore's Changi Airport was their best option. But even that would require careful planning and execution. The A380, for all its size and power, was now a wounded giant, its capabilities severely diminished. As the crew worked to stabilize the aircraft, they faced a new and unexpected challenge. The flight control computers, confused by the conflicting data from the damaged sensors, began to issue a series of erroneous commands. At one point, the computers attempted to override the pilot's inputs, forcing the crew to disconnect the autopilot and fly the aircraft manually. This was no small feat in an aircraft as large and complex as the A380, but the crew's skill and coordination allowed them to maintain control. Captain de Crespigny later described the experience as flying the aircraft by the seat of our pants, a testament to the crew's ability to adapt to rapidly changing circumstances. Outside the aircraft, the sky was a brilliant blue, the sun casting a golden glow over the Java Sea far below. For the passengers, the view was both beautiful and terrifying, a reminder of their vulnerability in the face of nature's vastness. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere was tense but controlled. The cabin crew, trained to handle emergencies with calm professionalism, moved through the aisles offering reassurance and assistance. Some passengers prayed, while others clung to their seats, their knuckles white with tension. The A380, for all its size and strength, suddenly felt fragile, a tiny speck in the vastness of the sky. As the aircraft continued its holding pattern, the crew prepared for the next critical phase of the flight, the return to Changi Airport. This would require a carefully planned descent and approach, with the crew needing to compensate for the damaged systems and reduced control. The approach to Changi was particularly challenging, as it required flying over populated areas and navigating a series of turns to align with the runway. The crew knew that they would have only one chance to get it right. There would be no room for error. At 10:45 a.m., after nearly an hour in the air, the crew began their descent. Captain de Crespigny guided the aircraft with a steady hand, his eyes fixed on the instruments as he made subtle adjustments to the controls. The damaged wing, now trailing a faint plume of smoke, was a constant reminder of the stakes. The crew's communication with air traffic control was calm and professional, their voices betraying none of the tension they must have felt. As the aircraft descended through the clouds, the skyline of Singapore came into view, a sprawling metropolis that represented both safety and danger. The final approach was a masterclass in precision and teamwork. The crew had to carefully manage the aircraft's speed and altitude, compensating for the reduced control and the asymmetric thrust caused by the loss of the number 2 engine. The landing gear, which had been lowered manually due to the hydraulic failure, locked into place with a reassuring thud. As the runway loomed closer, the crew made their final adjustments, aligning the aircraft with the centerline and gently blaring the nose to reduce the rate of descent. At 11 a.m., Qantas Flight 32 touched down on runway 20C at Changi Airport, its massive tires screeching against the tarmac. The landing was smooth, a testament to the crew's skill and composure. As the aircraft rolled to a stop, the passengers erupted into applause, their relief palpable. The cabin crew, though exhausted, maintained their professionalism, guiding the passengers through the evacuation process with calm efficiency. Outside, emergency vehicles surrounded the aircraft, their lights flashing as they prepared to assist if needed. For the crew of Qantas Flight 32, the ordeal was far from over. The aircraft had to be inspected and secured, and the passengers and crew had to be debriefed. But for now, they could take a moment to breathe, to reflect on what they had just accomplished. In the face of overwhelming odds, they had brought the aircraft and its 469 occupants safely back to the ground. It was a triumph of human ingenuity, teamwork, and the relentless pursuit of safety in the face of adversity. As the sun climbed higher, in the sky, casting its golden light over the tarmac, the A380 stood as a silent testament to the resilience of both machine and crew. The events of that day would be studied and analyzed for years to come, a reminder of the challenges and complexities of modern aviation. But for those who had lived through it, the memory would remain vivid, a story of courage and determination in the face of the unknown. The successful landing of Qantas Flight 32 at Changi Airport marked the end of an immediate crisis, but it was only the beginning of a complex and far-reaching investigation. As the passengers disembarked, their faces a mixture of relief and lingering fear, the aircraft stood on the tarmac, its damaged left wing a stark reminder of the ordeal. Emergency crews surrounded the plane, their flashing lights casting an eerie glow in the midday sun. The A380, once a symbol of aviation's pinnacle, now bore the scars of a catastrophic failure, its sleek lines marred by the jagged edges of torn metal and the blackened remnants of the exploded engine. For the crew, the moments after landing were a blur of activity and emotion. Captain Richard de Crespigny and his team remained in the cockpit, completing the necessary post-flight procedures and ensuring that the aircraft was fully secured. Despite the adrenaline still coursing through their veins, they maintained their professionalism, their training, guiding them through the final steps of what had been an unprecedented challenge. As they stepped off the aircraft, they were met with a mix of gratitude and awe from the ground crew and emergency responders. The magnitude of what they had accomplished was not lost on anyone present. The passengers, many of whom had embraced and wept upon landing, were ushered into the terminal, where they were met by medical personnel and crisis counselors. Some were visibly shaken, their hands trembling as they clutched their belongings. Others seemed almost euphoric, their relief manifesting as laughter and animated conversation. The cabin crew, though exhausted, moved among them, offering comfort and assistance. The bond forged in the crucible of shared fear was palpable, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. As the passengers were cared for, attention turned to the aircraft itself. The A380, one of the most advanced and complex machines ever built, was now the focus of an intense investigation. Teams of engineers, safety inspectors, and representatives from Qantas, Airbus, and Rolls-Royce descended on the scene, their tools and instruments at the ready. The damaged engine, its casing ripped apart, and its internal components exposed, was a grim sight. The surrounding wing was peppered with holes, some small and precise, others gaping and irregular, evidence of the shrapnel that had torn through it with devastating force. The investigation began with a meticulous examination of the wreckage. Every piece of debris, no matter how small, was catalogued and analyzed. The goal was to determine not only what had caused the engine failure, but also how the damage had propagated through the aircraft's systems. The A380's flight data recorders, often referred to as black boxes, were retrieved and sent for analysis. These devices, which had captured every detail of the flight, from the moment the engines were started to the final touchdown, would provide crucial insights into the sequence of events. As the days turned into weeks, the investigation revealed a complex chain of failures. The root cause of the explosion was traced to a manufacturing defect in the number 2 engine's turbine disc. A tiny crack, invisible to the naked eye, had formed during the manufacturing process. Over time, this crack had grown, weakened by the immense stresses of flight. On that fateful day, as the engine reached full power during takeoff, the disc had finally fractured, sending shards of metal hurtling through the engine and into the wing. The force of the explosion had been catastrophic, but the A380's robust design had prevented an even greater disaster. The investigation also highlighted the remarkable resilience of the aircraft's systems. Despite the extensive damage, the A380 had remained airborne, a testament to the redundancy and durability built into its design. The crew's ability to manage the multiple system failures was a key factor in the successful outcome, but so too was the aircraft's ability to withstand and compensate for the damage. The incident underscored the importance of both human skill and engineering excellence in ensuring the safety of modern aviation. For Qantas, the incident was a defining moment. The airline, which had long prided itself on its safety record, faced intense scrutiny from regulators, the media, and the public. In the weeks and months that followed, Qantas implemented a series of measures to enhance safety and prevent a recurrence. These included more rigorous inspections of engines, enhanced training for flight crews, and closer collaboration with Airbus and Rolls-Royce to address potential vulnerabilities. The airline's response was widely praised, a reflection of its commitment to maintaining the highest standards of safety. The crew of Qantas Flight 32, meanwhile, became the subject of widespread admiration. Captain de Crespigny and his team were hailed as heroes, their skill and composure under pressure credited with saving hundreds of lives. They were honored with numerous awards and accolades, but for them, the greatest reward was knowing that they had done their jobs to the best of their abilities. In interviews and public appearances, they emphasized the importance of training, teamwork, and preparation, lessons that resonated far beyond the world of aviation. For the passengers, the experience was life-changing. Many spoke of a renewed appreciation for life and a deeper understanding of the fragility of human existence. Some formed lasting bonds with their fellow travelers, their shared experience creating a sense of camaraderie that transcended the usual anonymity of air travel. Others struggled with the psychological aftermath, their memories of the flight haunting them long after they had returned to their normal lives. For all of them, the events of November 4, 2010 would remain a defining moment, a story to be told and retold, a reminder of the resilience and strength that lies within us all. As the investigation drew to a close, the aviation industry as a whole took stock of the lessons learned. The incident prompted a re-evaluation of engine design and manufacturing processes, leading to new standards and protocols aimed at preventing similar failures in the future. It also reinforced the importance of continuous improvement and vigilance in the pursuit of safety. The skies, though vast and unpredictable, were made safer by the knowledge gained from the ordeal of Qantas Flight 32, and so, as the sun set on Changi Airport, casting long shadows over the tarmac, the A380 stood as a silent witness to the events that had unfolded. Its damaged wing, now covered in protective sheeting, was a reminder of the challenges and complexities of modern aviation. But it was also a symbol of resilience, a testament to the ingenuity and determination of those who design, build, and operate these magnificent machines. The story of Qantas Flight 32 was not just a tale of survival, it was a story of human achievement, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, we have the capacity to rise above and prevail. In the years following the dramatic events of November 4, 2010, the story of Qantas Flight 32 became more than just a harrowing tale of survival. It became a catalyst for change in the aviation industry. The incident, which had begun as a routine flight and escalated into one of the most serious emergencies in modern aviation history, left an indelible mark on the world of air travel. It prompted a re-evaluation of safety protocols, engineering, standards, and emergency preparedness, ensuring that the lessons learned would benefit future generations of passengers and crew. The investigation into the engine failure revealed critical flaws in the manufacturing process of the Rolls-Royce Trent 900 engines. The tiny crack in the turbine disc, which had led to the catastrophic explosion, was traced back to a specific stage in production where quality control had been insufficient. This discovery sent shockwaves through the aerospace industry, leading to a comprehensive review of manufacturing practices across the board. Rolls-Royce, one of the most respected names in aviation, faced intense scrutiny and took immediate steps to address the issue. The company implemented stricter quality assurance measures, enhanced inspection techniques, and revised its design specifications to prevent similar failures in the future. The incident served as a stark reminder that even the most advanced technology is only as reliable as the processes used to create it. For Airbus, the manufacturer of the A380, the incident highlighted both the strengths and vulnerabilities of its flagship aircraft. The A380's robust design and redundant systems had played a crucial role in preventing a total loss of control, but the damage caused by the engine explosion exposed areas where improvements could be made. Airbus worked closely with Qantas and Rolls-Royce to analyze the data from Flight 32, using it to refine the aircraft's systems and enhance its ability to withstand extreme conditions. The lessons learned were incorporated into the design of future aircraft, ensuring that the A380's successors would be even safer and more resilient. Qantas, meanwhile, emerged from the incident with its reputation for safety not only intact, but enhanced. The airline's handling of the crisis, from the skill of its crew to the transparency of its response, was widely praised. Qantas used the experience as an opportunity to reinforce its commitment to safety, implementing a series of measures designed to prevent a recurrence. These included more rigorous maintenance checks, enhanced training programs for pilots and cabin crew, and closer collaboration with manufacturers and regulators. The airline also took steps to support the passengers and crew of Flight 32, offering counseling services and fostering a sense of community among those who had shared the experience. The crew of Flight 32, led by Captain Richard de Crespigny, became symbols of professionalism and heroism. Their ability to remain calm under pressure, to think clearly in the face of overwhelming odds, and to work together as a team was held up as an example for the entire industry. Captain de Crespigny, in particular, became a sought-after speaker, and advocate for aviation safety, sharing his insights and experiences with audiences around the world. His book, QF32, which chronicled the events of that day and the lessons learned, became a bestseller and a valuable resource for pilots, engineers, and safety experts. For the passengers, the legacy of Flight 32 was deeply personal. Many described the experience as a turning point in their lives, a moment that forced them to confront their own mortality and re-evaluate their priorities. Some found new purpose in the aftermath, pursuing careers in aviation safety or dedicating themselves to helping others who had experienced trauma. Others simply cherished the gift of survival, living their lives with a renewed sense of gratitude and purpose. The bonds formed on that day, forged in the crucible of shared fear and relief, remained strong, a testament to the power of human connection. The incident also had a profound impact on the broader aviation community. Regulators around the world took note of the findings from the investigation, using them to update safety standards and procedures. The International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, and other bodies introduced new guidelines for engine design, maintenance, and inspection, ensuring that the lessons learned from Flight 32 would be applied globally. Airlines and manufacturers alike embraced a culture of continuous improvement, recognizing that safety is not a destination, but an ongoing journey. As the years passed, the story of Qantas Flight 32 became a case study in resilience and innovation. It was taught in aviation schools, discussed at industry conferences, and analyzed in countless articles and documentaries. The incident served as a reminder of the complexities and challenges of modern aviation, but also of the incredible progress that has been made in ensuring the safety of air travel. The A380, once a symbol of vulnerability, became a symbol of strength, a testament to the ingenuity and determination of those who design, build, and operate these remarkable machines. And so, as the sun set on another day at Changi Airport, the legacy of Qantas Flight 32 lived on. The lessons learned from that day continued to shape the future of aviation, ensuring that the skies would remain safe for generations to come. The story of Flight 32 was not just a tale of survival. It was a story of human achievement, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, we have the capacity to rise above and prevail. It was a story of courage, teamwork, and the relentless pursuit of safety. A story that would endure long after the final chapter had been written. The story of Qantas Flight 32 did not end with the safe landing of the aircraft or the conclusion of the investigation. Instead, it marked the beginning of a new chapter in the history of aviation, a chapter defined by innovation, collaboration, and an unwavering commitment to safety. In the years that followed, the lessons learned from that fateful day in 2010 reverberated across the industry, shaping the way aircraft were designed, maintained, and operated. The incident became a touchstone for progress, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, humanity has the capacity to learn, adapt, and improve. By the mid-2010s, the aviation industry had undergone significant changes, many of which could be traced back to the events of Qantas Flight 32. Rolls-Royce, having identified the manufacturing defect that led to the engine failure, had revolutionized its production processes. Advanced imaging technologies such as 3D X-ray scanning and ultrasonic testing were now standard in the inspection of engine components, ensuring that even the smallest flaws could be detected before they posed a risk. The company also introduced new materials and designs for its turbine discs, making them more resistant to the stresses of flight. These innovations not only addressed the specific issues that had caused the failure, but also set new benchmarks for the entire aerospace industry. Airbus, too, had taken the lessons of Flight 32 to heart. The A380, already a marvel of engineering, underwent a series of upgrades aimed at enhancing its safety and performance. Redundant systems were further reinforced, and new protocols were introduced to ensure that pilots had access to the most accurate and up-to-date information in the event of an emergency. The aircraft's flight control software was updated to better handle asymmetric thrust and other unusual conditions, reducing the workload on pilots during critical moments. These improvements were not limited to the A380. They were incorporated into the design of Airbus's next-generation aircraft, ensuring that the legacy of Flight 32 would live on in the skies for decades to come. For Qantas, the incident became a defining moment in its history. The airline's handling of the crisis had solidified its reputation as one of the safest and most reliable carriers in the world. But Qantas did not rest on its laurels. In the years that followed, the airline invested heavily in training and technology, ensuring that its crews were prepared to handle any situation that might arise. Advanced simulators, capable of replicating the most extreme scenarios, became a cornerstone of pilot training, allowing crews to practice their responses to emergencies in a controlled environment. Qantas also worked closely with regulators and manufacturers to share the lessons learned from Flight 32, contributing to a culture of transparency and collaboration that benefited the entire industry. The crew of Flight 32, led by Captain Richard de Crespigny, continued to play a pivotal role in shaping the future of aviation. Captain de Crespigny became a global advocate for safety, sharing his experiences and insights with audiences around the world. His message was one of resilience and preparedness, emphasizing the importance of training, teamwork, and a commitment to excellence. He also worked closely with Airbus and Rolls-Royce, providing valuable feedback that helped to shape the design of future aircraft and engines. His legacy, like that of Flight 32, was one of progress and innovation, a testament to the power of human ingenuity in the face of adversity. For the passengers of Flight 32, the incident remained a defining moment in their lives. Many continued to stay in touch, bound by the shared experience of having faced death and emerged victorious. Some became advocates for aviation safety, using their voices to push for greater transparency and accountability in the industry. Others simply lived their lives with a renewed sense of purpose, cherishing every moment and striving to make a positive impact on the world. The story of Flight 32 was not just a tale of survival. It was a story of transformation, a reminder that even the darkest moments can lead to growth and renewal. As the 2020s dawned, the aviation industry faced new challenges, from the rise of sustainable aviation fuels to the impact of global pandemics on air travel. But the lessons of Flight 32 remained as relevant as ever. The incident had shown that safety is not a static goal, but a dynamic process, requiring constant vigilance and a willingness to learn from past mistakes. It had also demonstrated the importance of collaboration, showing that progress is only possible when manufacturers, regulators, airlines, and crews work together toward a common goal. And so, as the sun rose over Sydney Airport, casting its golden light over the tarmac, the legacy of Qantas Flight 32 was everywhere to be seen. In the sleek lines of the next-generation aircraft that lined the runways, in the rigorous training programs that prepared crews for any eventuality, and in the unwavering commitment to safety that defined the industry, the story of Flight 32 lived on. It was a story of courage, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of excellence, a story that would continue to inspire and guide the world of aviation for generations to come. As the final chapter of this remarkable tale was written, one thing was clear. The legacy of Qantas Flight 32 was not just about what had been lost or overcome, but about what had been gained. It was a story of hope, A reminder that even in the face of the unimaginable, humanity has the capacity to rise above and create a brighter future. And as the engines of a new generation of aircraft roared to life, carrying passengers to destinations, near and far, the spirit of Flight 32 soared with them, a silent guardian in the vast and boundless sky.